Hello, all of you ghosts and ghouls, and welcome back to Hybrid Entertainment, the one-stop shop for everything pop culture, including the nightmare-inducing, adrenaline-pumping works of Stephen King. Halloween may be past us, but that's not enough to keep the frights at bay, as we're here today to talk about the movie sensation and horror phenomenon, It, and the possibilities surrounding its upcoming Supercut edition. For those of you that don't know, here's a quick recap. Stephen King's It is the most recent retelling of what many consider to be, alongside The Shining, one of King's most seminal works. First published in 1986 and adapted into a TV miniseries in 1990, the new take sought to bring the iconic horror story to the big screen in 2017, all to a resounding success. Focusing first on the child aspect of the story, it tells of 7 friends coming together in the wake of a number of child murders cropping up in their small town of Derry, Maine, all of which are being orchestrated by a demonic entity known as Pennywise, the Dancing Clown. Realizing there's more to this thing than meets the eye, the kids take it upon themselves to confront it and stop the murders plaguing their town, vowing to return should the creature ever return as well. It Chapter 2 tackles the other half of the story, when the 7 members of the Losers Club grow up into adults. In the wake of familiar murders terrorizing Derry once more, the losers must band together once more to confront it and stop its reign of terror over their lives for good. While not only confronting the clown, the group must also confront the innate fears and trauma they experienced as children, now manifested into blights on both their psyche and their personal lives. Can they truly defeat it, or will they finally join their long-lost friends and float down there? To say that the new movies were a success is a bit of an understatement. It managed to break box office records at the time of its release, becoming the largest grossing R-rated horror in history, taking in over $700 million at the global box office, being followed by the second chapter, which currently at the moment sits at around $456 million. That's a lot of green for some scares, and being the big success that it was, it's obvious that Warner Brothers and director Andy Muschietti want to keep that train going. And what better way to do that than with a supercut? According to Muschietti himself, there's rumblings to get a supercut of both It movies together into one giant 6+ hour feature film. Daunting, to say the least, but in all honesty, it's a move that's fair to the source material. Clocking in at just over 1,100 pages, It has always been a very long work, and so a supercut should be no different. Of course, there's a few things to kind of clear the air about. While yes, a supercut would entail a combination of both films, we've seen a lot of outlets and junkets jumping the gun on what exactly that means in terms of the presentation. For those that aren't familiar, the original narrative of Stephen King's It is portrayed in a non-linear fashion. It consists of sliding both forward and backward in time between 2 periods, interweaving the story of the Losers Club as kids alongside their lives as adults. While not always clean-cut, the style offered a unique reading experience. When things happen to the children of Derry in 1958, we see those same occurrences having scarring and prolonged effects on them as adults in 1985. The narrative works to show how the past influences the future, and to also foreshadow future events as well as past revelations for ultimate dramatic tension in the book. Again, it doesn't always work, but it's a unique storytelling device that many remember fondly on. So, a lot of people seem to be under the impression that a supercut would involve recutting and editing both films to fit this format, something that's rather odd considering the very nature of these films themselves. Muschietti himself has actually expressed that this is not the case for the potential supercut, speaking with outlet Consequence of Sound on what the nature of the supercut would actually be. As quoted, "We call it the supercut. It's very early stage, you know, and we're still discussing the format. It won't be intertwined or anything like the way it's in the book, but it will contain all the scenes that were deleted from both movies for pacing reasons, and will hopefully have new material, which is stuff that I haven't shot yet." While this may seem disappointing for a lot of you out there, allow me to break this down a little bit. Both films were always intended as 2-parters. During the production of both, there was never any discussion on how to capture the storytelling of the original book, nor has there ever been an indication that the movies have the ability to be intertwined back and forth. Even back when Cary Fukunaga was attached to write and direct, Stephen King's It was always meant to be separated into 2 different films. To attempt to edit them into such a fashion would, in all honesty, probably end up quite messy, and more than likely ruin the integrity of both films on their own. A supercut was always meant to be simply both films side by side. Now, that doesn't mean there's no surprises in store for viewers, however. In addition to adding in deleted scenes, Muschietti has described the desire to add in unshot scenes that were dropped early in production, which would require him to get back behind the camera. According to Muschietti, this would include one sequence that is from the book and one that is not. There's a lot of direction to go with something like this, and there's certainly no shortage of scenes Muschietti has discussed in the past, so it's really hard to say what exactly he might want to include. We know there was set to be some further exploration of the macroverse that just didn't quite make it into the final product, and we also know that an idea for Maturin, the giant turtle that vomited our universe into existence, was in play to be included at one point, but we also have no idea if those scenes are still on the table. Now, if I'm going to place any bets, I'm going to place them on the oft-quoted period scene that Muschietti and Doberman discuss. The scene in question involves Pennywise making its appearance known in Derry, Maine, circa 1600, where a famous deal is made for it to feast on a handful of children every 27 years in exchange for the rest of the town's life. Muschietti has described the scene in the past as confusing, but with how much it's circulated and been talked about, I can't imagine leaving it out. As it stands though, the IT Supercut mostly looks to be a straightforward editing of the two films side by side, with some deleted scenes reattached along with new content shot exclusively for it. Will it improve the experience or cause it to sink further? Let us know what you think down in the comments, and thank you all for checking out this video. If you liked this, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more topics, discussions, and news pieces as they come out. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter for up-to-date news and check out our website for all of our content. Thanks so much, everybody, and don't forget to keep on floating.